We're going to ensure that the certainty that investors want to see is there. We're going to continue with our reforms of our state-owned enterprises, because a number of them have held us back. The key one has been the electricity producing one, ESCOM.
President Cyril Ramaphosa is on a mission to woo business. In his first engagement with investors post-elections, he promised a major overhaul of the country's economic structure. Captains of industry seem to believe the new dawn will bring market-friendly reforms. In a show of confidence in the president, Goldman Sachs has expanded its South African business with endless political pressures. What will it take for the president to deliver on his promises to repair the economy? And will the populists, some within his own party, allow it? Tonight we have Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. With him in the studio is Chris Malikane, Associate Professor of Economics at Wits University. Welcome, both of you.
Pleasure.
Makwe, I mean, you couldn't have timed it better. Goldman Sachs coming in, a real sort of stamp of approval that Cyril Ramaphosa is going to be able to do what he promises. Will he? What does he need to do to push those pro-market reforms?
You know, the beauty is we know what is our problem. The question has been implementing those. So I think simple things like making sure that we get clarity on the likes of land reform, start with the reorganization of ESCOM as we promised, tell us what are you going to do with this huge public wage bill, you know. I mean, I think maybe 30,000 or so people maybe might have to leave, stuff like that. And more importantly, which we're overlooking, you know, maybe we can turn South Africa into a tax haven, reduce taxes, attract investors, then definitely people can come and open factories back home here. And, you know, as well, we've got mines, you know, which are under maintenance and care. Probably maybe the government might take those ones, and maybe it might resonate well with the likes of Prof, that it's more into nationalization. Then you save the jobs at the same time, because those kind of mines that deep to mine, then you need hard labor to do those kind of mines.
Let's pick up your point about land. I mean, how do you think the president and his team, he's promised a business-friendly cabinet, how are they going to deal with the populist policies that we're seeing within his own party and the EFF when it comes to land and nationalisation with his pro-market reforms?
Exactly. I think that is the big problem that he faces, because the ANC has got clear resolutions to which he's expected to abide, but at the same time he's promised business certain promises. So there is a discrepancy that might crop up, perceived, that is likely to create political instability for him if he does not frame whatever promises he makes to business within the context of the resolutions of his party.
How will he play players like the EFF here? Because, I mean, Moody's mentioned them, so the international investors are listening. Yeah. What would they like to see? What sort of compromises will the president have to make?
I don't think the EFF is a factor, because the ANC is a majority party. They will simply press on with whatever resolutions that they have. The key thing for the president is really to balance the demands or the resolutions of NASREC and his business-friendly promises. That is the key contradiction that he has to solve.
And what about you and your funds? I mean, one of the problems is that a lot of South African businesses sit on capital, they don't release the money. Do you think we'll start to see that now, start the investment ball rolling?
It is starting already, like you said, the likes of Goldman Sachs, you know, already they're happy. And I think it started when the guy was appointed as the president of the ANC, you know. We saw the rand strengthening, we saw our local stock strengthening, because people were saying this guy's policies are pro-growth, since well he's a business person. And I think it's a question of just being practical. Yes, he did promise things he didn't deliver. Remember, I think it was June or so when he came with the stimulus, and he promised one of the things that he will start with auctioning the spectrum. It's almost 12 months down the line, nothing has happened. So stuff like that to start making South Africa that doing business here is much easier and cut all these red tapes.
But do you think we're lying to ourselves when we say that we are middle of the road here? I mean, are we at a crossroads here? I mean, you seem to think that possibly we are.
I think we know exactly what we need to do. You know, like I'm saying, I mean, check those mines, how many jobs they want to retrench. And those mines, it's not like they're making losses, but the profits they're making, they're not enough to satisfy a private investor. So as a government, why don't you just take them? And maybe to talk to the question of nationalization, if you want to nationalize, that I'm taking these mines, then I'm saving jobs. Yes, we're not going to make super profits, but we're not going to run those mines at a loss. We've got huge mines in the gold sector, in the platinum sector as well. I mean, those are the practical steps that we can start implementing.
Yes, but beyond the mining sector, I think there needs to be he needs to articulate a strategy to industrialize the country. Because without industrialization, broad-based industrialization, there's no scope for the economy to have capacity to create jobs. I mean, the unemployment rate keeps on creeping up, and the manufacturing sector is one of the sectors that is struggling. So he needs to come to articulate a very clear action plan on industrial policy, industrial strategy. He needs to be clear on how he's going to roll out massive infrastructure. He needs to also explain how he's going to roll out basic needs, meeting the basic needs of the people. Because as we speak, there are massive backlogs that we are experiencing. Teacher shortages, nurse shortages, doctor shortages, and all of that. Those are opportunities to create productive and socially useful jobs.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, he also mentioned during that business summit Eskom and that it would be tackled, but we have failed when it comes to Eskom, and I'm not sure how it will be tackled other than continuing to throw money at it in case we default. Once you default, you've had it.
The sooner they start with this whole thing that they promise that they'll reorganize Eskom, the better. And talking about industrialization, fortunately mining talks to manufacturing. So if it tackles that, then at least it will help us to move forward. But like you said, we are waiting. They said we'll appoint the chief reorganization officer, stuff like that. The point is, Jane, we just need to move as fast as we can. Investors are happy, they're willing, they're trusting us, they have hope. Let us not disappoint them this time around. Let's start to implement as soon as yesterday.
And investors would trust us more if there was a clean cabinet. They've mentioned it over and over again. I mean, so many business deals rely on stamping out corruption. Do you think he would have to tolerate some sort of corruption?
No, of course not. He has made a promise that he's going to stamp out corruption.
But it'll never go away, I mean.
Yeah, any state has got some level of corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one Indian philosopher who said that being a public servant is like being a fish in water. Some of the water remains inside the fish. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, sorry, carry on. What were you saying, sir?
So my view is that, you know, when it comes to Eskom, he needs to be very careful because it's an institution that has got is vertically integrated, and I've made this point repeatedly. Nigeria unbundled its energy sector, and it created a huge instability in electricity supply. They are now rebundling. The UK, they did the same thing in the 1980s, and now they want to rebundle and nationalize the energy sector. So I think we need to just fix the structure of Eskom, particularly the coal sector, make sure that that coal is supplied to Eskom at affordable prices.
If you could take yourself back to 2009, Zuma, end of the financial crisis, and where we are now with our own sort of financial trials and tribulations, where would you rather be?
You know, I think where we are, I think it's much better position, given that we are at the bottom. The only way is the way up.
Yeah,
so,
like that.
And going back to the cabinet, I think as a chief executive of the country, you need capable people who will help you to drive a mission. And it's not a question of Zuma ministers or Cyril's ministers, it's capable people who are able to do the job and help you to deliver on our mandate.
And the area we're really cracking it, it's projects, isn't it? I mean, we look at the World Cup. I mean, we just nail it, don't we? I mean, how do we take that sort of project mentality and do like the Chinese do and sort of project it to a sort of, I don't know, 5 to 10 year growth?
Yes, that is a key thing. It's about action, implementation. So identify those areas where there are huge infrastructure backlogs, particularly those infrastructures that will lower the costs of manufacturing, of doing business in general, but also of meeting the basic needs of the people. And once you identify those infrastructures, high impact infrastructures, then you plan and then finance them at an affordable interest rate.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Chris Malikano, those words, and Makwe Masilela, thank you.